the gun crew. They win.
Alright, we beat you.
Come on, let's go, let's go!
Oh, on, go!
Boom! Boom! Call it! Alright, give me new gun operators. Reset the guns! Way over the break room.
What about the soda here right now?
All the food and sodas have to go to the break room, and then come back and we get ready to get our safety briefing tour. So let's go.
It's like a mirror.
Nom style.
Same for you, isn't it?
Nom style. There shall be no walking or running. There shall only be nom style. Have to be the best trip ever. And probably make using nom style on the Korean battleships instead of walking and running.
South Korea.
That's probably what they do. What, you Gangnam style? Yeah, here you hit your head on the top.
That's kind of low.
Why are you videoing it?
Why not? That's the question.
Probably makes sense. What? Now, head back over there. How about you? Head back over Catches and things.
Hey guys! Of course, I'm sorry, I have to do it, Mr. Winter. You just told me the word
No.
I'm only walking. That's the only thing I'm doing about. That's the only way I'm walking. Well, I'm
annoying.
gonna try to do that.
It's really annoying.
Yeah, this is more like a term day. I farted too. Today, you might want to watch out. You're walking into my fart path. I'm going to shack slap you. Shack slap you.
Don't turn that.
You're going to shack slap you.
It could
Yeah.
Homosexual.
Max!
Oh, no, I was joking about
Max.
that. You know, I'm serious.
So come here.
Look, it's like a mirror.
Okay, shine your flashlight arm into here. I'll see what's in there.
Alright, listen up, gentlemen. Up against the wall.
Yes, sir.
That's enough. That's enough, sir. It's my turn to talk. Hey, make some space right there. Spread it out. Alright guys, first and foremost, welcome to Battleship Texas. My name is Paul McCann. I'm the program manager. I'm also the command duty officer tonight in charge of tonight's program. George Zetopek is going to be one of our tour guides, and Talia Peshka is the other tour guide for Divisions 1 and 2. I've been here since 2009 doing this program. I actually retired from the U.S. Navy in 2009. I served 20 years as a radar operator, and I've served on 5 different combatants, spent about 6 years in the Middle East. George is also a former sailor. He was an aviation guy. Talia, she's a school teacher, and she's been involved here along with the First Texas Volunteers and a lot of hours out here working on the ship and restoration projects. So we got a pretty good crew tonight. So first thing I want to say, guys, be respectful. Be respectful of us, and we'll be respectful of you. We'll have that in turn. So when you speak, it's going to be yes sir and no sir, or yes ma'am and no ma'am. Yay and nay doesn't get it done. Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
There you go, that's what I'm talking about. So it's pretty easy, right? And if you guys can't be respectful, then what we'll do is we'll try a different avenue, a different approach until we figure out the right answer. Okay? So that's going to be easy enough. We'll get along tonight and have a good time doing it. Alright, so first is respect. Okay? Second thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about some of the safety stuff. We're going to get you guys going on your tour. So what do I have here in my hand?
Fire alarm.
What is this not?
A toy.
A toy! That's the right answer. That's what I'm talking about. Look, if somebody goes by and thinks it's going to be funny in the middle of the night to pull this alarm,
No.
it's going to go off. We all need at that point begin to evacuate the ship. We have to wait for the fire department to arrive, the park police officer to arrive, the ship's manager to arrive, the curator to arrive, and a few other folks. When they all get here, there's over 700 compartments. Those are rooms. 700 that have to be inspected for a fire. Anybody think it's going to take a very, very long time to do that?
Yes.
It'll either be yes, sir, or no, sir.
Yes, sir.
So there you go. So in the meantime, we're outside. It's going to be cold, and we'll be hanging out there until they say it's safe to come back on board the ship. And when they figure out there was no fire and that somebody must have pulled this, then at that point we come back on board, get all of our gear, and you guys get to drive home early. That will be the end of our program. So if you think you see smoke, see sparks, smell smoke, see fire, notify an adult or your tour guide. Let them make the decision and pull that alarm. Fair enough? All right, so that's that. Now we do have fire bottles here on site. They're modern ones, actually up against the bulkhead. The wall's called bulkheads. We're going to be using naval terms. We'll be talking. But they have the modern day safety tag and a modern day issue on them. But we're not here to fight fires. There are other ones that you may find that would be taller, that have none of the modern day stuff on them. And those are just there for display purposes. So if you're to pick it up, you might as well throw it at the fire because there ain't nothing in it. All right? So if we have to evacuate the ship for any reason, the stairs are called ladders. On board naval ships, they're called ladders. Anywhere that there's a red exit sign, and that exit sign is lit, that is a safe way to exit up those ladders. There are other ones on the ship that won't have an exit sign, or the exit sign is not lit, and it means the hatch is locked, and you won't be able to get out. You're going to bust your head if you go running up those ladders. Okay, and you won't be able to open them. So that's the two closest to where you're sleeping at. Those are the two closest exit points if we have to evacuate for any reason. If there's a fire, we always want to go up. We never want to go down in a fire. We want to go up, go back to the quarterdeck, and we head back down to our muster point where we just met at this evening outside the gate. Any questions about fire safety?
No, sir.
All right, so you may have noticed there's a lot of chemical refineries around us, oil refineries, different plants. If there's an issue at one of those places, we'll do a shelter in place if we're going to be affected by it. In which case, we'll get together in our space, we'll hang out until it's all clear and all safe to come back out. We talk about this stuff so that we are always prepared. Come on, boys, that should have been an easy one. All right, is that still not what scouting says? Is that like that a motto or something of the scouts?
It's be prepared.
Always be prepared? Well, that's what we're talking about. So that's the reason why we need to know how to handle emergencies. Okay? So, let's get down to the good stuff. What's the pointy end of the ship called?
The bow.
The bow. How about the back of the ship? What's the left-hand side called?
The port side.
Left-hand side.
Starboard.
Left-hand side.
Starboard.
No, left-hand side. Port side. There it is. How about the right-hand side?
Starboard.
Starboard. So if I'm looking at the back of the ship towards the aft, what's my left-hand side called?
Starboard.
Still the starboard side. In this case, it doesn't matter what direction you're facing. Port and starboard is a relationship to where the bow is at. So that way we're never confused whenever we're talking about port side or starboard side. Doesn't matter where you're facing in the ship, it's relative to where the bow is. Now up above us up here we have these frames. They're kind of like your ribs, right? They give structure to the ship. 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71. Anybody catching on to a theme?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What is that?
They start from the back and they go forward.
They're getting larger, so they're getting larger when I'm going towards the... No, what's the back? The stern. We're using naval terminology. If I'm getting smaller on these numbers, I'm going towards the bow. And I'm traveling in what direction?
Forward.
Forward. Very good. If I'm going towards the stern, what direction is that?
Backward.
No, not in the Navy. It's aft. We're going aft. Talking about this so you guys can kind of get a sense of where you are on the ship so you don't feel like you're going to be lost if you were to go to find something. So all of you gentlemen right now are sleeping in casemate number 6. At frame 63 on the second deck. So if you have to find out where your bunk room is at, frame 63 is right here at casemate number 6. If you find another frame 63 and it doesn't look like this, you're probably on the wrong side of the ship and need to come around to the port side. Because this frame goes all the way across the ship, so if you're on the starboard side, you can find frame 63 over there as well. But that wouldn't be where your bunk room is. You're on the port side, frame 63.
Are there multiple frames, 63s, like on a different deck?
They are. These frames go all the way from top to bottom of the ship. So they're all numbered equally throughout the entire ship from the bow to the stern. Yes, sir?
So they're like a grid?
Yes, sir, exactly. It's kind of like a grid system, so it's like having an address. Right? So up here on the port side, I've got casemates 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You guys catching on to that?
Yeah.
What type of numbers do I have? Even numbers. All even numbers are to the port side of the ship. Easy way to remember that is, hold up your left hand. How many letters in the word left?
4.
How many in the word port?
4.
And 4 is what type of number?
Even.
Even. There you go. That's how you guys got it memorized. Now you're welcome to the Navy. Good job. On the starboard side, over at casemate number 5, which is the dreadnought room, that's where your snack room is going to be at tonight, and your movies and breakfast will be in the morning. So that's casemate 5, 7, 9. They're odd numbers. All odd numbers are to the starboard side of the ship. Okay? So that's going to be pretty easy. Now, we may notice here on the second deck that this deck actually kind of starts sloping away and it slants down at an angle. And the reason that was because this had these casemates, originally they were 5-inch guns. And they were open to the outside. So when we got into severe seas or heavy seas, waves would crash over the ship and water would literally come inside the ship. And so that water would have to wash down the second deck to deck drains. Your tour guides will talk more about those guns and what happened to them throughout your tour. Now, what do we call the ceilings? No, ceiling. It's over your overhead. The floor is called the
Lowerhead.
no. It's called the deck. It's called the deck. So we got walls that are the bulkheads, the overhead, and the deck. Okay, so we're going to start getting kind of used to some naval stuff here. How many of you guys been to a museum before? Where do they put all the nice expensive things at those museums?
In cases.
In cases. Well, look, gentlemen, this here is a museum. It's a National Historical Landmark. Has been since 1948. That's when she arrived here. Not everything on here is behind glass, but it still is a museum, and therefore we still need to show some respect for it. All these lockers, as much as you guys want to open up every one of them, I promise you that there is nothing in them. The ones that have stuff in them will have a lock. And if it's locked, that means they don't want you to open it anyway. They wouldn't put a lock on it. Later on during the tour, you guys will see what one of the sailors would have looked like and how it was set up, how they used it. But basically, this is your closet. Everything you own goes in that locker. Okay, your tour guides will show that to you. If there are things that you're allowed to touch or be able to turn knobs, your tour guides will let you know that. We'll talk about being respectful. Let your tour guides talk. Whenever you're going from place to place, you guys can chit-chat with your buddies, but when the tour guides stop and they begin speaking, please stop talking and give them your attention. If you have a question, please raise your hand. They'll be glad to answer any and all questions. If you find a question and you stump us, we'll give you 25 bucks. I'm just kidding. All right, no, but we will promise you, if we don't know the answer, I promise you that we will get you the answer before you guys leave tomorrow morning. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes,
sir.
Okay, let's work on this. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to work on it. We're going to have it done before the night's over.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're good. So that's going to be the plan. So right now what's going to happen is we're going to get ready to turn you guys over to your tour guides. And you guys are going to take off and have a good time. So we're going to have about the next 2 hours or so will be on the tour. We're not going to go topside at all tonight. We'll save that for in the morning. At the end of the tour, we'll get a chance to go back to the break room, have your snacks. We're going to be showing a historical movie about the battleship Texas. It's got some pretty cool history in it. And then there'll be a scavenger hunt. It's kind of like a test, but nobody likes the word test, so we call it scavenger hunt. So if you're paying attention throughout your tour guide's going to give you all the answers. But you have to pay attention. Okay? So that's kind of what's going to happen tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll talk about the morning schedule after we have breakfast. We'll get ready to go with that. Okay, if you have to use the head, the bathroom on board naval ships are called heads. If you raise your hand and say, I need to go to the bathroom, we're going to let you go to the bathroom, but that's ashore outside. We'll be glad to escort you out there. If you need to use the head on board the ship, you can use the head, and we'll show you where that location is also. If you need water, we're going to have at least 2 water breaks during the tour, but at any time, if you're thirsty and you need to get water, just let your tour guide know, and they'll make sure you guys get water before you go on to the next station. Any questions about that?
No, sir.
Any questions about that?
No, sir.
All right, so listen up for your division to get ready to have a good time, guys.
Yes, sir.
Tour guys.
Division 2, hang here a sec. Division 1, follow George.
Oh, no. Division 1. Come on, Rand.
What do you think?
Yeah.
That's the office.
That
The
is the post office, yes.
What
What you got is, what we're starting on, second deck as far as sailors go, it was called Main Street, because generally you can find anything here.
that you'd find in Main Street America. So, you had your doctor's office, you had your post office. Unfortunately, these days it's more like every place, all the strip malls around the local Walmart, but you get the idea, right? So what you have is, this is the post office. It was in use the entire time the ship was here. Or the entire time we even had a ship. What you got in there, some of it's fake mail, some of it's real mail. But everything in here is very, very important. This is where you're going to start seeing bunks at very odd places too. I mean, how many guys look like slept in there?
1, 2.
Yep, you had 2 guys in there. Now, the thing about this ship, and I'll bring it up, just give me a sec. What you got on this ship is, originally when she was built in 1914, she was commissioned. Her first crew had about 910 officers and men. She was built to hold about 1,000. Unfortunately, World War II, well, obviously, yeah, the war to end all wars didn't quite work out as planned, because we had another one, World War II. In between that time, though, they learned, the Navy especially, learned that there was a major threat at the tail end of World War I and throughout the 20s that could really damage a battleship pretty bad. It was this little thing, went up in the air, we're saying like, obviously you know what I'm talking about. What is it?
Airplane.
The airplanes. And if you read about the beginnings of aerial combat in World War I, it's actually hilarious reading. But after a while, they got very good at not just throwing rocks at each other, trying to knock each other down in the air. They got to the point they could carry bombs and actually drop them on battleships and sink them. So we had to have anti-aircraft crews. This ship built to accommodate 1,000. In World War I, thanks to all those anti-aircraft guns they put all over the place, well, when World War II started, of course, December 1941 for America, she had over 1,800 crew, roughly 1,840, give or take a few. So yeah, that's why, yeah, it's a lot more. That's basically double the crew. So that's why as you go along, especially on second deck, you're going to start seeing bunks in very odd places. We had a whole bunch stuck in that section, and you guys are leaning against some right here. They're here because of, well, where else were they going to put them? Suddenly they have all these guys they got to have bunks for.
Over there, for example.
Well, yeah, they got them all over the place. They got them hanging here because they actually had room. The passageway was big enough. But if you lay these out, they still go out at least that far. But if they're not in use, they take the slack up on the chains and they put them up kind of slanted. Obviously, if somebody's sleeping in them, they don't do that. But that's what those are. Also, you'll see these as we go along. These little hooks here, you know what those might be for?
Hanging stuff.
Well, more specifically, hanging what?
Wet stuff.
More bunks.
More bunks? Sort of. Hammocks, exactly. So what you had was everybody had a hammock. Not everybody could get a bunk, though. The problem is now in World War I, hammocks were considered okay. You guys ever seen a hammock, you know, the backyard thing, you loop it up and you lay in it? Uber awesome fun. Problem is, if you sleep in those things too long, you start developing back problems, which the Navy found out about, and they said, guys, no more hammocks. Of course, if you're in a pinch, they gave you one anyway, and you could string it up between 2 of these hooks. Obviously, you didn't use every single hook here. You would have done like in between, left some space. Otherwise, you would have been way too crowded. But they'd string them up there, jump in there, and go to sleep. They did that all over the place. There's also hanging all underneath the air castle, which you'll see in the morning. So yeah, so you've got people bunking everywhere, even in where they worked, which brings me back to the post office. So you had 2 guys in here. You had the postmaster and his assistant. And guys, over here, rotate around so people behind you can see too. Now there's a little something over there, not the package, not the typewriter, there's something else on that desk. I'm going to take a wild guess.
Scale.
Huh?
The scale.
Not the scale.
Oh.
A gun, yes.
Where's
He
the
did
gun?
have a pistol holster there.
Oh.
And when it comes right down to it, there were very few guys on board that were armed. The postmaster was armed. I guess that's where Going Postal originally came from, I don't know. But what you got is, there's a reason he had a gun. To prevent theft, and not so much theft of pictures, but when he's leaning against right there, that's a teller window. Kind of like you go to the bank and slide your money across, whatever, when you guys get old enough to pay bills, you'll get it. But what they did was they got their paychecks, and they'd come here to cash them, but they didn't cash all of them. They'd take a little bit. This was actually more of a way to, you guys ever been to a carnival and like wanted to go on rides? You didn't like fork over $1 for the rides, right? You went to like a ticket booth and changed out your tickets for your dollars for tickets. You guys have done that? Well, that's basically what they did on board. It was onboard money. So money wasn't like, dollar bills weren't changing hands or nothing like that. Plus, things cost a lot less back then. So what you got is, you give a little portion of your paycheck over and they give you these little 5-cent tickets or chits. And that's what you bought stuff with. Now, that may seem like 5 Gosh, 5 cents? That's gonna be an awful lot of tickets to buy something. Not really. In World War II, the average, I finally found this out last week, the average pay rate for a sailor on a ship was about $60 a month. So, yeah, I think most of your parents put that much in their gas tank every time they fill up, especially these days. So just imagine, back then about 15 cents, sometimes 10 cents could get you a really well-balanced meal. 5 cents could get you, you know, well, back in the day they smoked like chimneys, could get you a pack of cigarettes. But you buy a lot for 5 cents back then. That's why they changed around 5-cent tickets. So we had here the postman changed out the paychecks. He also collected the mail. Mail on board ship is just like actually mail anywhere in the armed forces even today. Very, very important. Because, well, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have telephone system really. Well, you had kind of a main one, but that's what the code breakers would be using, not you. So you didn't get a chance to call your mom in Iowa or whatever, any chance you wanted to. You had to mail a letter. So what happens was, that's what they did. Now, every sailor we ever talked to has said they get a letter, stick it in their bunk, and then by the end of the night they go and they'd read it. By the end of the week they had it memorized. They were really, really keen on getting news from back home because, you know, they didn't know what was going on. What we also had is there's 2 different types of letters they basically sent back in World War II. We've heard from 2 different veterans. One of them was basically called V-mail. Basically it was just a postcard. You flipped it over, wrote on the back side to your parents or whatever, sent it on its way. For a very important reason. The Navy read your mail. That may seem a little harsh, but the longer you're in the armed services, especially, you know, crazy at a time like World War II was, the more you tend to forget. There's certain things civilians don't really need to know. So, you know, just imagine you're talking about the scuttlebutt you heard, or the rumors, around basically the water cooler talk, and you're flipping over and you're talking, hey Mom, I heard we might be going on a secret bombing mission to Tokyo. You don't want to write that in a letter because if it ends up falling overboard in the mailbag and a Japanese submarine picks it up, you just blew it. For everybody. Lose, slip, sink ships was very much taken into account. So we had that. We also had they gave a form letter sometimes to the guys. Kind of like your permission slip letters, you know. Hi, on this date, you know, blank, we are going on blank field trip, fill in the gaps and stuff. Almost like a Navy version of Mad Libs. So you filled in the gaps and wrote it in your own handwriting and sent it on. That's why occasionally you look at, if you ever get a chance to read letters from World War II, especially guys who come from the same ship or the same, you know, army company or whatever, they might sound pretty similar just because they had a form letter. Because some guys just didn't know what to talk about. So they got intimidated. It's like, well, here, just fill that out. You know, it worked out pretty good. Okay, this right here is the tailor shop. Take a wild guess what you think they do.
Clothes.
Well, not specifically make, but,
Repair.
well, they did some repairs, but they also, huh? Well, true, they did some repair work and sewing, but sewed what more specifically? And you guys are wearing the shirts that
Uniforms.
Sewed uniforms, but more specifically, what are these?
Patches.
Patches, insignias. Somebody had to put them on. They did not have iron-on decals back in the day. Just didn't happen. Or iron-on patches. They had to actually go and sew all the bars on the arms there. They had to sew those on, and they had to really stitch them up real nice. Now this was an original of the ship. This didn't show up till about 1942, I believe. Late 1942, if I remember correctly. But what you had was, these guys, you know, for a small fee, you know, 5 cents or so, or a favor, you know, you could get your, you know, your clothes taken, your seams repaired, or get your insignias put on. We actually have had guys who, occasionally on the ship, you know, I told you we gave tickets. Well, sometimes they barter services too. So it'd be like I think the guy on the left in that picture, actually right there, he wasn't terribly good at shoe shining, if I remember he said. He'd be like, hey, we got an inspection coming up. Can you shine my shoes? I'll mend your pants. They just kind of trade off like that. Worked out pretty good for everybody. Now, how many sewing machines do you see in there?
1, 2.
Yep, just 2. Yeah, the rest of these things are actually big fancy presses. Kind of like, instead of the little hand irons you guys plug in, they just lay the pants out nice and straight, just press down, steam all those wrinkles out real nice. That would
So
be a
what was
mother's
this
dream.
room before it was the tailor shop?
It was just machinery space. Probably extra lockers and bunks, that's about it. There was a lot of machinery space in here, extra passageways, but they kind of took them apart and stuff like that. Were you trying to make him go Spock on me? Yeah.
Were these like were they actually like caged in here?
No.
When,
This was only put here because of, well, now it's a museum ship. They didn't want anybody walking around back there and stealing stuff.
and that one too?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
how would you get in there? I get that door.
Yeah.
How'd you get that one over there?
The only door.
Yeah, the door there, it's just, it pushes open.
Okay.
Yeah. But what it is it's got a table laying in front. All you gotta do is knock the table up, walk through it, knock it back down. It's very easy. But yeah, we don't walk in there or do anything. But I just like bring it. Now you see, well, you see this picture right here. You see there's two pictures of a woman on the desk. Take a look in there. Do you see a picture in there? That's actually the guy on the left's wife. He came back after the war, when the ship was put here in 1948, and he'd actually been so good at being a tailor on board ship, he opened up his own tailor shop and made quite a bit of money when the war ended. And he came back, he goes, hey, this used to be my spot. You guys want a picture of my wife for the space? Gee, I wonder what we said. Yes. So that's actually a picture of his wife. We just kept it there. Now I like to bring this section up. I know it's like, ooh, yay, gets men clothes. But how many of you guys want to be Eagle Scouts? All right. Well, I like to tell you, when you guys get to do your volunteer hours and such like that, and you need time to do that, this section here was actually put together by Eagle Scouts. They got the list from the archivist and stuff, the paints to use, the materials to clean with, all the little, period accurate things to, put back together, how to clean it up, how to restore it properly. And they made this space actually look fantastic. They were gone before I got here, but I would have loved to meet these guys because they did great. So yeah, when you guys get older and want to find a volunteer project, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we used to have over 1,800 guys on board. We're short of, 1,840. We're short about 1,800 and about 30 years overdue. So we can use all the help we can get when you guys feel up to a project.
You don't really have a maintenance crew anymore.
Not much. Unfortunately, Park Service has been cut loose like everybody else for the most part. We don't even have a ship's historian anymore, which is a bummer. But what we got there is a canteen. Go ahead and take a quick look, guys. You can walk around. Just rotate around so people behind you can see too. Hey. So yeah, this is kind of like your combination of your Walgreens and your 7-Eleven, minus the slushy machine. But yeah, you can get pretty much everything in there. You get your magazines. Yes, they smoked like chimneys back then. You get your toothpaste, your shaving brushes, extra towels and socks. They fed you your 3 squares a day. You got your regular uniform, but obviously if you were running out of socks, you might need to buy some more. You could go on shore and buy with your real money, but this you could pay for with chits or tickets.
Has that actually been in there since the war?
Oh, no. They're like museum props. Otherwise, you see packages like swelling from age and everything. It would be nasty.
How do you say that chewing gum stuff?
What? Dentine?
Dentine?
Dentine chewing gum. Kind of like your Dentine ice today, only a little different. Then you got your juicy fruit, all kinds of
Juicy
stuff.
Fruit's the first to be.
Well, you got your Planters peanuts, you got your Charms, Lifesavers. And back in the day, of course, you got your magazines on the back wall, all the PG, obviously. We got families on board. And I'm sure they had under-the-counter stuff, but it was literally under the counter. So what you got here, though, I actually found out from my dad, they did smoke like chimneys back then. Smoking was actually considered good for you in some circles.
They made people believe that.
Yeah.
Also with alcohol, they made people believe that alcohol would cure diseases kind of thing.
Well, compared to the quality of the water at the time, alcohol was preferred. Because you had who knows how much bacteria in the water supply way back at the turn of the last century. So yeah, but they smoked like chimneys back then. It was also partly, if you look at old movies, people were smoking all the time. It was also because this is before underarm deodorant was invented, so they smoked to cover up the body odor. Apparently, smoking was considered preferable.
What is this stuff above us? They look like tables except folded down.
Right here?
Yeah.
You're right, actually. Those are tables and benches. Actually, those are just 2 tabletops. I don't know where they put the benches. But what you got is, we don't have a giant cafeteria here. We're not an aircraft carrier. We don't have room for it. So what they did was, anywhere you see these hanging racks here, you have a table and benches, and you get a couple of guys to set them down, and 10 or 12 guys could sit there and you eat, play cards, whatever. We'll see an example of one folded down proper in a little bit, but you did things as a group, and then whenever you were done, go back to work, wipe it off, put it right back in the overhead. So we actually have them scattered all over the place. Now this is a bit cruel, but I'm going to pretend it's the middle of summer and it's about noon and the soda fountain is open. So get in line for me. All right. There's room down here too, guys.
Soft serve
I
ice
want
cream.
some Coke.
Now I'll tell you this: the only soda they had on board actually was Coke. This is kind of what they got was back in the day they had soda fountains in a lot of drugstores and such, pretty much everywhere in America. They had the soda jerk tending it. What they did was you have these two valves here for one reason, well, two reasons. That one would have had carbonated water in it. You pull down on the lever, have carbonated water. This would have had Coke syrup in it. So turn the knob, put in your Coke syrup, stir it around. There's your 5-cent cup of Coke. It may seem a bit gross, but actually your fast food soda fountains do the same thing.
Because you can ask them for extra.
All they do is they got two different tubes and they mix together in the nozzle. That's all you got to worry about.
And
That's why.
carbonated water alone, because like
That was
there's
18.
this restaurant that I was at, the soda fountain was messing up and it wouldn't give out the syrup. It would only give the carbonated water, and it was nasty.
Well, that happens sometimes. That's why, if you're wondering, well, how come this Dr. Pepper looks awfully watery? It's because they ran out of syrup. They just need to go. They don't get a bunch of 2 liters and chug it in the tank or nothing like that. Yeah, they actually mix it, and they come in like little baggies. I've seen them change it out sometimes. So that's what you get. You get that for about 5 cents. You could get more than that, of course, too, here at the lovely soda fountain. However, this area of the ship was only open 2 hours a day. Now, usually in the summertime, I think it's about noon to 2 because it's hottest time of day, obviously. In the summer or in the winter time, it's like after dinner, depending. Of course, they changed hours depending on time of year, anytime they could. But this area here, because it was only open 2 hours, it was literally first come, first serve. Most areas of the ship, actually pretty much every other area of the ship, you have a designation between crew members. You have the officers and you have the enlisted men. Officers, obviously, for those you don't know, they're in the service, they're going to be there the rest of their lives. Enlisted guys, they're going to be there a few years and move on. So officers always have first dibs. Not in this case. This is one area of the ship where Texas always maintained equality. Other ships kind of had their rules bend back and forth. Texas side, for morale's sake, would be a good idea to do first come, first serve. Now, telling you that, we did have a gentleman on board who just showed up. I think he just got promoted to lieutenant and he came on board ship. He decided he was going to get in line for the soda fountain. So he comes up here. He goes, okay, here's my 5 cents, like my cup of Coke, please. They're like, nope, you can get back in line. He's like, well, here's my 5 cents, I'd like my cup of Coke. No, you need to get back in the line. He's about to pull the whole don't you know who I am routine. But about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in line, this gentleman stands out, shows his admiral stars, and says, son, get in the back of the line. So we've had admirals wait on board. We've had captain would have waited in line too. We've had presidents on board. I'm not sure if they really stuck around the soda fountain much. They probably got in it for just for kicks. But frankly, of course, president. Oh, go to the front of the line, sir. Frankly, if I was in the engine room all day and smelly and had grease all over me and I was sick and tired of it, I would not want that pencil pusher in front of me. I'd be like, I've been working all day. You haven't. Stay back in line, please. But that's just me, because I'm mean. But that's the 5 cent cup of Coke. Now you see that big white container with the black motor up top?
That's an ice cream machine.
Yes, it is.
That's ice cream spoon.
Yes, you do see the
What is
spoons.
this?
That's the... I'm not sure
Ice.
exactly. Yeah, I believe
Ice
that
machine.
is. Mine also.
And that's another It's one ice. that had 2 places to make Coke.
No. Oh yeah, 2 of these. Yeah, exactly.
That's an ice machine.
But,
Oh, no,
yeah, but that... Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. There we go. Yeah, that black motor and cylinder, that made about 6 gallons of ice cream a day. And this was the part of the line, however, you definitely had to be first come, first served because, let's say the 2 hours weren't up yet and you ran out of that 6 gallons of ice cream, they weren't making any more. So if you really wanted a Coke float, you better get in line first. For about 10 cents, you can get a Coke float. For about 10 cents, you'd also get a banana split if they had fresh bananas around. It's pretty cool. Even if they had canned bananas, it was still worth it. But what they got depended on what was available. So, if they went to a port and they needed more strawberries and didn't have any, well, guess what ship wasn't going to have strawberries on their sundaes? It just depended. Occasionally we had chocolate ice cream, but most of the time it was vanilla. It just depended on where you were and where you could get supplies, and when, of course. So that's that. I believe one of those is a pasteurization machine for the cream and such. The other, I'm not sure. I think it's almost like air conditioning unit. I've had somebody ask that before. I've been trying to look up the specs, but nobody seems to have that info. Questions so far?
What is this? What are the rules?
I'll about to tell you. Good question.
How much downtime did a sailor have that he could get down here?
Wartime, I'm not entirely sure. They would have had probably an hour or two off at a time. I know if they were like pre in the thick of things, it'd be like 4 hours on, 4 hours off if they could.
Okay.
So they had time to sleep or grab stuff. Obviously, at battle stations or something, soda fountain wouldn't be open. But this here, this is an area you can touch. Just don't wang on it or try to sit it. You know what this is called?
Rope.
Well, that's what we landlubbers call it, but in the Navy it is called line. So if you ever watch a movie and they're saying throw me the line, this is what they're talking about.
Oh my
So-
God.
Yeah, basically. Only probably not so whiny. Anyway, you see that down there? What is that?
Anchor.
That's an anchor?
Door.
Hatch.
Sorry.
Hatch? Okay, well, what's that?
A red door.
Hatch.
That's a roof.
Hatch.
Another hatch.
That's a hatch. Okay, we got a hatch here and a hatch here.
Why would you do that?
So you
Good
could jump
question.
from that one to that one.
You want to die?
We all ain't Air Jordan. I think they had some other thing in plan for that. So we got
For munitions?
Oh,
sort of, yeah.
where you could climb down from the rope and get it.
Sort of. You guys are hitting it. You're close. Now what they
Maybe
do
like,
is these
Load the
hatches. Hang on. These hatches will go all the way down to the bottom of the ship.
Oh.
So we're on second deck. You go third deck, first platform, second platform of the hold. So we have 4 other levels below us as we be going down. So what they do is they open them up to as far down as they need to go, and they'd open up here. They prop it open, and you see this little clicker here. It would actually hold onto the door.
Seems like somebody had a hammock here.
Well, they could if nobody was using it, yeah. But what they do is they make sure that hatch is clear, obviously that the surrounding seas were clear. They'd run this line up and this line up. And what they do is they'd attach them to a supply ship and basically have a tow line back and forth. So this is for loading the ship. Now you wouldn't have like 3 or 4 guys doing this. You'd probably have a couple dozen on all decks participating. Everything came down these hatches except for like major engine parts and stuff like that. Those had their own special engineering trunks. But things like ammunition, the powder bags, stuff for the soda fountain came through here. Cigars for the humidor up on second deck would have been here. So all this stuff came channeled down straight through here. And they go down, of course, they start at the bottom, work their way up. Because, think about a ship, even if it's doing underway replenishment, which is something they kind of really got into toward the tail end of World War II, where both ships are moving and still passing stuff back and forth, it was very tricky. And you had to watch it, but you could do it. You're still going pretty slow. You're not going like 30 miles an hour in the ocean doing that. That's just too fast. But you're sitting duck, just, Japanese submarine just waiting to pick you off while you're reloading. So they filled up the bottom of the ship first. Obviously, it would have been like the munitions, the 14-inch, shells, the 5-inch shells, all that good stuff. Straight there. Then they'd be passing around just back and forth. Get it out of here. Close the hatch, work on the next level. Close the hatch. You can get this done in about half an hour if you got a really good crew really working on it. So, because remember, you had a couple dozen guys on each level passing stuff around and getting it done because you were in danger. You also had one on the starboard side over there.
Oh.
So yeah, it was very worth it. Unfortunately, this one doesn't open anymore. I wish it did. That one opens still.
Oh, we should open it.
No, it's just it's rusted so thoroughly. I mean, they've tried cutting it open, it still won't move. They can't figure out exactly
Dang.
where it's stuck. But it's also the way the door's constructed to keep it sealed up tight, because otherwise, let's just say a bomb comes straight through here, that's a good 6 inches of steel to help deflect. You got
like
4 inches everywhere else.
If it makes it through this hole, then it just, and if it makes it through that hole, there's still 4 more levels, so.
Yeah, but they have to, because this is a weak spot in the deck, they've got to reinforce it. So it's probably actually caught on a lip, and underneath the lip it's rusted and we can't get to it. I'm sure that's what it is.
Can we open the other one?
No, afraid not. We need the first team out here and a lot of really strong guys to do it.
Oh.
Sorry.
We have a lot of really strong guys.
I'm not going to debate that.
Strong guy.
All right, guys. Now, if you're really helpful people, take a look in here and tell me what you think it is. And yes, just watch the combing.
Laundry stuff.
It's laundry. Yeah. Yes.
It's the
Now, does your laundry at home look like this?
No.
I should hope not, because that means you have an awfully big laundry room. Now, you see that big cylinder over there with the 2 open doors?
Yes,
That's the
a
washing machine. What they do is they put the clothes in there, obviously get them nice, good and wet, and when they take them out, they are dripping all over the floor, soaking wet. I mean, they're dripping all over the place. But, you see these 3, give me a sec, 3 freestanding kind of urns sticking in the middle here?
Yeah.
Those are the spinners. Your washing machine at home naturally does the thing where it washes, and you hear the kind of that noise of the water going away, and then it does a
push start.
well, that's what those are doing. Your washing machine does all that in one place. They didn't have that here. Now I bring it up because we got the washer and we got the spinners. What's missing?
Dryer.
The dryer. We never had one. I'll tell you how they dried their clothes a little later.
On the racks. On these.
No, they didn't do that.
Take a
Well, that's where they did the pressing work. They didn't do drying work there. You see, like the tailor shop had the little presses.
That's interesting with
That's
pants.
they'd have the clothes, you know, a little bit wet still, and they'd starch them down, and they'd put it on the press, and it would take all the wrinkles out. Question?
Why did they have one here if they have one there?
What?
A press?
Well, they had them in tailor shop for a different reason. These are like when they're still wet and stuff, get them cleaned up good. Now, the thing is about this space, it was so hot and humid, it was the one area of the ship you could get down to your skivvies to work and nobody had a problem with it. Take a wild guess what you think skivvies were.
Underwear.
Very good. Yes, Navy term, skivvies.
That would be me.
Another thing about the laundry room, if your laundry room does look like that, then you're probably living on a battleship.
Or you have a very, very, very antiquated hotel you're sleeping in. Who knows?
Yes.
Now, I'll tell you this. Now, what do you think this is for here?
punishment.
No, it's not a dryer.
A punishment.
No, it's not for punishment. At least I hope not. Now, take a look at, now it says on there what this is. Now tell me, give me a wild guess.
Warning, power off.
Not that one. The one below it.
Like a winch?
Wait, is it like a freezer?
Type of thing?
I'm guessing.
Well,
What does it say? All these people have their heads in the way.
Host?
Hoist. Oh, hoist.
5-inch ammo hoist. So, the ammo hoist, what do you think that means?
That means it hoists ammo from the lower level to this level.
Yeah, exactly. So, we got the ammunition comes up here. Now, what's missing if you got the ammunition coming up here?
Gun.
The guns, exactly. Now, Paul already told you a little bit about why we got the deck the way it is and the fact that we did used to have guns on this level. This was the ammo hoist that would have brought the ammunition to the guns that we no longer have here. However, this is a good 6-inch all-around steel box. So very effective in case, you know, that 4 inches above us got plundered and a shell came down here and exploded. Well, it's not going to get any further down than this because this is a really effective little space for it to blow up on.
It's a box.
Yeah, and also remember, like the hatches over there, if they were to cut this area out, they would create a major weak spot in the deck. So they're like, let's just leave it there. And then sometimes the guys like look around, they'd open it up and like stash their goodies in there and walk away. They might have had their lockers, but every veteran had their own little stash space for stuff. Or people would be like, I'll take care of that later. I don't need that. Go in there. Just hopefully they wouldn't push it too far and knock it down the shaft. That would knock it down to the next level. That'd be bad. Now this area I like to bring up because we're going to get into a little bit of the history of the ship, just very minutely. But this area I can talk about. You see this little cutout on the deck here?
Yeah.
Yes, take a closer look if you need. Now this here is basically the platform that would house the 5-inch gun. Back in the day, until about early 1920s, we had 21 of those guns, 15 on this level. Where you guys are sleeping, this would have been your bunk buddy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dang, that's cool.
We still have 6 of them, and you'll see them up close and personal tomorrow at Under the Air Castle.
Under there. What if we
That's that covered area you guys came down the steps on.
What did that shoot? Did it shoot like a big shot or a small little one?
Shot 5-inchers.
5 inches.
They're about that tall and about that
I
far
saw
on the
one of
base.
those on the upper level.
Yeah.
What
that's
would
those are.
what would those use to shoot down or hit?
Those were used for you guys good? Okay, they were anti-surface. They could shoot 7 miles. Basically, they're meant to blow up torpedo boats, which I'll tell you more about tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're just a bunch of units on the land.
Tell you more about that tomorrow. But anyway, so that's that gun. That's where it was. Now, the thing about it is, well, gun's here, but obviously it's not anymore. This ship has gone through a lot of ripping and rebuilding over the years. Even, right as soon as they launched her, they were still making improvements. This section here, 1920s, they took this gun out. They had this wide open to the ocean in 1914 and about 1922. Thing is, well, like Paul was saying, if you got big old waves crashing over the top deck like this, you think this deck's going to get pretty wet?
Oh yeah.
And this is the Texas, actually. I didn't realize that. Somehow they got a colored picture of it in the storm. Pretty cool. So this area here, especially at the stern, aft end of the ship, all that water coming through creates a problem for these guns, especially because to shoot those 5-inch rounds off, you use a 24.5-pound powder bag. To ignite that powder bag, because it's got cordite in the middle and stuff, which is relatively safe, but you need something that sparks like that to go off. They use black powder. Has anybody ever had to mess with black powder before or anything like that?
No.
What happens when it gets wet?
It doesn't work.
It's useless, right? They spend more time trying to keep the powder and the guns dry than actually shooting them. They're like, yeah, let's never do this again. So what they had was instead, all these casemates that had these guns, they turned into bunk space, very much like where you guys are sleeping, because they're like, you know what? We'd probably have more sailors or get more, fresh recruits if we actually gave them beds to sleep in, because everybody had hammocks up to that point. So this all was open to the ocean. Now I'll give you a little bit of basic engineer history on the Texas, whereby you can see a lot of different things here. First of all, do you guys know what this is?
What is
Oh, that is totally
You said it. Welding. So yeah, you've got a big weld seam here. This used to just have a canvas covering. But when they decided not to put a gun here anymore, they just got some plate steel on the outside and welded it in place. Anywhere you see welding, that is not 1914 technology.
I see welding
Welding?
right there.
Well, yeah, they had a
Porthole.
yeah, they had a porthole there, and then they figured out it was a little bit too much of a danger. Too much light could generate from aft just because the amount of space and light. So they just shut it down. So what you had was, they welded over that. But you had welding. Welding was not approved in the Navy until about the 20s. They didn't think it was strong enough because if anybody does welding, the weakest point of a piece of steel that's been welded is the area around the weld. The weld itself is the strongest part. Problem is, very rarely does a bomb hit the weld. Exactly. So, they were a little worried about, crashing into things and stuff because rivets were the major design. You guys see these little bumps up here on the overhead?
Rivets.
Those are rivets. And for those of you guys who don't quite remember basic stuff, here we go. Where is that? Well, you guys know who this lady is, right?
I don't know who she is, but I saw that before.
I've seen that.
You guys ever see the recruiting posters? She's Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah!
She's the woman.
My grandparents have that picture on their fridge.
There's lots of them. She was very popular. She was the person. Of course, it was like, Rosie the Riveter. But what's a rivet? Very few people know what a rivet is.
Yeah.
Well, this is a rivet. This is what would have been on the ship. Please don't drop it on your toes. It might hurt.
That's a big nut.
That's a big rivet. Well, what they do is, they have a pre-drilled hole through 2 sections of steel. And then they get the steel red hot. That's not a fire, that's a steel that's red hot. They get it super hot, they put it in a bucket, they toss it to a guy who catches it with tongs. They stick it in the hole while it's still red, and they tap it through. On the other side is another guy tapping on the other side. Because where you see that mushroom head kind of, the other guy's making a mushroom head too. So those 2 ends actually merge together. And do you guys know what happens to the metal when it cools?
It sticks together.
It expands, doesn't it?
No,
When
it
it
shrinks.
cools? It shrinks.
Oh, it shrinks.
Yeah, when it's hot like that, you can still mold it around and stuff and play with it. That's how they make cool things like samurai swords. But when it cools down and stuff, it actually combines, and what it does is it presses together real hard and creates like a watertight seal. It takes a lot longer to build a ship that way, but you're going to have a pretty good ship. That's how they built the Titanic, it's how they built this one.
Well,
Have you had a chance to look at it?
She'll get Titanic.
Yeah, well, that's because the rivets were not very good, and neither was the
What is
metal.
this hatch for?
Yeah, they had like.
Yeah, they used the wrong
That
kind.
is,
Yeah.
I believe, electrical
Didn't it have like
access.
copper in it?
They have the cheap, really
The thing,
bad kind.
okay, well, there's
popped out.
hundreds of theories, and I've heard just about every one on what happened to the Titanic. The big thing, probably the most important downfall of her was, you know, they got this whole process for smelting and, you know, making metal properly, putting the airflow in and stuff. They didn't really know how to do it that well then. They were just kind of guessing. So they had so much impurities in the metal, it really weakened it.
Yeah.
And especially the rivets, which were iron. Not very good. Question?
Where's that bag?
They were painting in this area, and they didn't want to get paint on the sensors for the smoke detector. That's all.
But they
Ooh, good question. This is partly for design, partly for function. I'm not sure exactly what they called these, but I do know, well, here at the aft end of the ship, the thing about this ship is she did go up and down and side to side very, very well. I like to, you look at old pictures of her and stuff. She pretty much waddled like a drunk penguin on the waves. At least that's what I call it. But just imagine, where's my picture of her? What she had was, that's the Texas actually going through the North Sea, very rough seas. That's her top deck you guys are standing on. It's even with the water. The water's actually coming over that top deck a bit. So she's actually rolling and dipping and punching and side to side. I mean, she was really bad about that.
That's a real picture.
Yep, this is, I don't know what ship it's taken from. That's the Texas going through the North Sea. So
For
yeah,
some reason why that looks like a really big rivet, but I know it's just a small pipe.
it's the exhaust. They just got that dome over it, so it's not just an easy, oh hey, there's a hole, throw a bomb down it. It's not like a pinball machine. So that's what you got. But in this section of the ship, what you're standing next to, well, how many of you guys have ever, well, you're wearing jeans and stuff. How long does it take to wear holes in the knees because you're running around or something or messing around outside?
Depends on what you're running around.
Yeah. But yeah, you keep rubbing against it, you're going to get holes. Well, just imagine if you got to hang on to this and you got like your uniform, it's going to keep rubbing holes in it, especially if you've got this pole here. This prevents that. It's also partly decorative. This is actually brass. A lot of people think it's gold, but it's not. And it's also something for the guys to do. I mean that in the sense that for brass, you had to really take care of it. Probably at least every other day, if not every day, you had to shine it up real nice. Every veteran said they were sick of the smell of brasso by the time they left the service. My dad actually likes it. Kind of creeps me out. But what you do is, let's say, sorry guys, I'm ruining it for you, but okay, one thing you never ever do around your parents or around a superior officer is just sit there and act like you have nothing better to do and say, I'm bored. They'll come up with a list of about 50 things for you to do really, really quick. So if you're walking around, your superior officer or somebody sees you and go, hey, what are you up to? And you don't have a good answer, guess who's going to be cleaning this?
Not me.
You got a little toothbrush or get a little wipe and you just go real nice and shiny. The reason it doesn't look so good right now is because we don't have guys to clean this every single day. Remember, we're a little short-handed here. So yeah, so this is partly decorative. This here also, this line work, this is called cross-pointing. That's also functional and decorative. That's not something that's really taught in the Navy. It's something kind of handed down between people. George actually, the other tour group, he does really good line work. What they do is, I was going to say please don't slip, but what they do is they kind of lash things down real nice and just have these nice knots and stuff. It's a way to dress up the ship, but it also holds things in place. The hatch you guys came down, the hatch bars, has that line work wrapped around it. And it does it for a good reason, because on a lot of these reels you have it. Because nowadays you can get like rubber grips on pretty much everything. You didn't have that back then. So if you need to go up the ladder and storming, and that nice little handrail slick, you're going to slip and bust your butt on the deck. Not very nice. But if you got that line work, you got something to grip onto. So it's decorative and functional.
This is real, right?
Yep, it's just been painted over to preserve it because it's put together real tight. And if it unravels, we can't put it back together.
Do you guys know what that knot is?
A knot.
I don't know the name.
Nice.
Not a good
answer.
It's a Turk's head. You know the neckerchief slide you guys can buy? If you look at the design of it, it's the same as this.
Yeah.
Aren't those
Turk's
wooden
head.
though?
Are they what?
Aren't they wooden though?
Hey, guys.
What is this?
I made one out of
Light
purple.
switch?
Move out.
I made one out of purple.
Oh, so if I turn it, the lights
They
will
just
go off?
preserve it this
They're-
time
Don't.
because usually they change out the line
I made,
once in a while, but
I think
we don't have anything to do that.
I made one of those out of purple except from
Yeah,
the
it's just
picture.
regular
Is that a
line.
functional light switch or is it just like?
What was it called?
An arm.
We're sinking, man. We're sinking. Grab on.
Water.
Can we do that?
Well, that's just the water pressure change, so the water came in. No. Well, now where we are in the after washroom. Traditionally, we came in here, obviously, had like your toiletry bag or whatever you needed. And in this case, this is the showers. Now, what's one thing you tell me, obviously? Hey, we ain't going back there yet. What's one thing you tell me about these showers?
No curtains.
No
Naked in
curtains.
front of other guys.
Okay, thanks for the drama there. But yes, basically it. You had 1, 2, 3, 4 showers. Now guys, remember, about 1,840 guys, rounded down about 1,800. About 150, maybe 200 officers and crew that had digs elsewhere. The officers and the captain, admiral, they all had different washrooms they went into. All told, you still had about 1,600 guys who had to take showers or, brush their teeth, whatever. We have 4 shower heads in this one and 4 in the other. Now the thing is, you took back then what was called a Navy shower. Very simple. Turn on the water, get nice and wet for a minute. Turn it off. Get all soaked and lathered and all the other good stuff, shampooed. Take about a minute. Turn the water on, get rinsed off. 3 minutes. How many of you guys shower every day? How many of you guys lie to me because I'm telling you?
What?
I
What?
appreciate your honesty. What you got is, I'm going to be over here now, thank you. But what we got is, back then in the day, that 3 minutes was all you had every 3 days. Literally, when they say stop wasting fresh water, you did not have time to mess around, okay? You were not over here under the shower head going, oh, it was a horrible day. Jack dropped a wrench on my toe again. You had a guy over there with a towel going, wake up! Oh, don't leave it. I know you guys have done that to each other at some point. No. That ain't me. Yeah. Ooh, this? No. These, no. Thankfully not. What you got is here, you had this space because, remember, 3 minutes. You had a line of guys who use showers. You didn't have time to go, oh, is somebody in there? No, I'm sorry. You jump in, get out, 3 minutes. Besides, remember guys, this was an all-male crew. Nobody was looking at your naked little butt. Nobody had time, so who cared? No women were around. Don't worry about it. It's not like you had a bunch of girls suddenly show up. No worries. Question? Well, no, not back then. They were kind of in like reserve corps where they kind of took care of stuff on land, but they were not on naval ships. Unless it was like the admiral's wife and you're just going on a short trip somewhere, in which case she'd be out there the whole time. She wouldn't be down here with the guys. She wouldn't be coming in like, hi guys, how you doing? And making everybody run for cover. Didn't happen. Which is good. So yeah, you had these showers. There's a reason why everybody was so like, oh, 3 minutes every 3 days. Actually, that was considered a luxury back then. Because in 1914, on land, it was very difficult to get access to good, clean water in most places. All the things we take for granted, like water testing, they didn't have that. If you lived in the country, you had your Saturday night bath. So get the bucket, make it, nice hot water, everybody take a bath, maybe once a week. I know people in rural Kansas who still do that because they're too poor to get plumbing. I know, I got mom's family does that. And also, if you lived in the city, it was very difficult to get access to clean water. Like somebody was bringing up the whole idea of alcohol and stuff like that, being, they drink alcohol because it's good for you. Considering the water quality back then, people would die from drinking the water sometimes. It was that polluted.
Colorado.
Yeah. So that's why it's like, in the city, there were a lot of people, you might have had a shower once a month if ever. And there were still people walking around until about 1920 who firmly believed taking a bath was bad for you. So, and remember guys, no underarm deodorant back then. Now guys, just be careful be careful going through this combing because there is a bit of water here. So if you step it a little bit, don't worry, you'll vibrate your butt.
Vibrate.
Is that bathroom you're talking about you use?
No, this is not the one you can use.
No, it's the head, right?
This is the head, but it's not the head you're going to use. Trust me, guys, you don't want to use this one.
Why
For good
not?
reason. There's no water in it to flush with. What you had was this type of toilet system worked very simply. You turn the valve, seawater was actually pumped up through here. Came through the trunk, went up, around, and of course we're at the very aft end of the ship, and the water would just run off the back. Now the thing is, remember, when you guys have been coming down the passageway, is our deck nice and even? Slams down, right? So thank you, Isaac Newton. We have this little thing called gravity. Not that he invented invented it, he just told us about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that slope, all the water would run off and go back there. That's the clipping room. We don't go back there. This is messed up. Just let you know. That's why I close it. Otherwise, people start walking around in there, and then people yell at me for it. So
What's in there?
that's where the 40mm clips would be stored, which we just have a bunch of empty cases, nothing in there. But this is also messed up, so I'm not going to show anybody that. But anywho, so what we got here is, this is the toilet system. And yes, obviously, what's missing?
Doors.
We're missing doors. Now, we did have hooks. I think at one point they did try like a curtain rod system or something, but it just became too much of a hassle. So they said, forget that mess. We don't deal with it out there. Who cares about it in here? Remember, nobody's looking anyway. So you had like little hooks here to hang your toiletry bag on. Because when you went to take a shower, you had your shower shoes, your towel, and your toiletry bag. You did not have a big backpack full of junk to lug around with you. It wasn't like that. So you went in there, did your business, and you come in here. So, come in, use the toilet, go out. Well, you would have brought your own, basically. Or yeah, you could, if you had a little hook here, just stick your toilet paper on the end of it. That worked out pretty well. Now, okay. Anyway, now I will tell you, if you guys know the story already, don't spoil it for anybody. This toilet system worked very well for a particular Navy prank they used to have on board called the hot seat. And if you know what it is, don't spoil it. Basically what they do is, and this has happened quite a few times with this crew, I've heard, different times. Of course, maybe only 1 out of every 10 veterans will admit to knowing somebody who actually did it, or admit they did it themselves. But what they did was, they'd get a guy, and he'd come in here, look around, see all these toilets over here filled up, and he'd come over here somewhere, look around, make sure nobody's looking, sit down on the toilet, get a big ball of toilet paper, light it on fire, and drop it in the tank. Now, where's that water going again? Which way?
Towards the gas.
That way. So where's that ball of fire going?
Towards the gas.
That way. So you have all these guys down here going, ah, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, and of course, hiking up their drawers, swearing like sailors, and tackling the moron down the passageway who decided it's a good idea to do a hot seat. Now, that's happened on quite a few occasions. I'm pretty sure they got nice and beat up for their troubles. But it was kind of just one of those little Navy pranks, although it did make for some embarrassment for anybody who had a slightly hairy tush and had to go to sick bay because of the burn. They're like, why are you here?
Hot seat.
Just get in there, okay. Yeah. So that is one of the funny things about it. Now, these toilets don't look particularly good because of, well, unfortunately, remember we said we're a few guys short as far as maintenance goes. Please don't sit on it. They're not exactly secured, that's why I don't want you to bring it up. But what we got here is, these are wooden seats, and they would have like canvas and seawater, and they rub it over it real good, because one, it would remove the splinters, somebody wants a splinter in your fanny, but two, it would treat the wood, so all these little cracks in there, it would kind of swell up and hold it together. So it's very, very, very useful, and also sanitize it a little bit. So I made it good. It's not like you're sitting in a whole bunch of ew.
Y'all replace these wood?
I think a couple of them have, just because age, they had cracks in them, but we've tried to keep the original wood wherever we could. So, anyway.
Like a Navy hat and a miniature one?
Please tell me you're going to throw that away in the garbage.
Yes, I will.
Okay, good, because we're going to head that way now anyway. Now, guys, remember, watch the puddle. My second.
That's the puddle.
And now relax, and now the head over. One more, we'll take like, before we go below and come back up, so.
Now, what is this for?
How much longer are we going? About an hour and 5 minutes. We're about at our halfway point, guys. Now, while you're here, you guys are getting situated with the water. No, they're not movies. Not generators. Wait. Guys, remember, take around so people behind you can see too. Wait a minute. So
Ammunition.
Those are
Magazines.
ammunition magazines for the 20 millimeters. Now, you see what looks like a big bullet standing up right there?
Mm-hmm.
That is a 20 millimeter shell. When they get bigger than a 50 caliber, they're not called bullets anymore, they're called shells. So what you got is, that's a 20 millimeter shell. These cases, these magazines, hold 60 of those. Fully loaded, weighs about 85 pounds.
Yay.
No, you'd be gone. You wouldn't have a hole. You'd be gone. Yeah, your little longboard would be gone. Anyway, so what you got is, now we've got these ammo cases down here. What's missing? The guns. You know where they are?
No.
Right above us. Yes, we got two over here. We got two over on the other side, and another ammo
How
locker.
would they get 80 pounds of those up there just by?
More like this.
Yeah, but I don't think someone could throw it that high.
Yep.
Boom.
What they do is they basically did a pass around. Thing is, they'd have probably 5 or 6 guys here. They'd be, of course, gathering momentum, passing. They had a young guy down here, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Remember, full of adrenaline. Come on, you guys are young. You know what adrenaline is. They grab that thing and they throw it up the ladder.
Throw it?
Yeah. Sometimes if they had to, like they were tiring out, they might have a guy right here in the middle, but that didn't happen very often. But they'd just throw it right up there because there'd be a couple of guys up there and another 5 or 6 guys passing to the guns. Yeah, they wouldn't throw the guns, they'd throw that ammo case.
How much pounds?
85.
Oh my gosh.
But the thing is, now, guys, the reason they could get away with doing that, don't go too far ahead of me here, guys. The reason they could get away with doing that is the 20 millimeters were a last resort weapon. They weren't any aircraft ground, but it's not something they were shooting for like hours and hours and hours at a time. This was the type of weapon that you shot when you ran out of options. Meaning that any airplane coming your way, especially a kamikaze, they got through your 3-inch fire, they got through your 40 millimeter fire, which is actually very effective. And you'll see those guns tomorrow. If you heard the 20s going off, every veteran we've talked to said when they heard the 20s go off, they hit the deck or ran for cover below. Because that meant a plane was way too close, either about to bomb you or one of your buddies, or right above your head about to drop something. So, anybody heard those? They did. They went elsewhere. 20s are usually manned by a lot of the Marines. They did have, of course, regular standard crews for them. 40s over there, definitely manned by the Marines. But what you had was these cases, they throw them up there a few at a time, maybe only shoot like a minute or 2 bursts, wait a bit, then go on. Because they weren't shooting for hours and hours, because you just couldn't keep that up. Now they did have the 20s, they fill up the locker, but let's say emergency was over with, automatically from below they make sure to bring more in and fill that ammunition magazine up. So that's yeah, we had some pretty interesting guns on board this ship. But yeah, those 20s, that was something you were very wary about.
Are the 20s bigger than the 40s, or the 40s bigger than
40s are bigger.
Yeah, 40s.
When I talk about like 20 millimeter, 40, 3-inch or 5-incher, it's the size of the base of the round, the diameter.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, 40s are like 4 times longer too.
Why did they find that the 20s as the last resort if they were small?
Because they were also faster and could really nail the target. And when those didn't work, they also had 50 caliber machine guns they'd shoot off.
Machine guns?
Yep, which we don't have anymore. The Navy took them because they use 50 cals all over the place. So, this is kind of a mock-up of what it would look like if you're using this area to sleep in. So, all this great stuff. You had your table set out nice. Yes, you had your meals here. Obviously, that's fake food because if it was real, you'd have real cockroaches swarming all over it by now. But this is kind of the way it looks like when you live here. Now, you see about 10 or 12 guys can fit at this table. Very easy. Clean it up, stick it right back on the racks. Now, you see these big black things underneath those 2 bunks? What are they?
Uniforms.
The uniforms. Now, why do you think they put them under the bed?
So they don't get wrinkled.
They don't get wrinkled. Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's not like they got a hanging closet in here anywhere. They don't have that. What they found out is, well, first of all, you guys will find out when you go to sleep tonight, there's not much room to toss and turn and wiggle around. So once you're lay there, find a spot you're comfortable in and go to sleep. But these guys figured that out too. And what they found out is they get their uniform nice and pressed, get the wrinkles out, lift up their mattress, put the uniform under it, and just leave it there until they needed it for shore leave or inspection, whatever. And they'd be like, okay guys, inspection's coming. Lift it up, put it on, no wrinkles. It's a pretty good way to do it, especially if you don't have a closet. You kind of got to do it that way. But it worked out all right.
Pretty clever.
I put all my clothes in it.
Okay guys, now this is an example of what Paul's talking about. This is the locker. So this is, you'd have your work pants or your dungarees, your work shirts, your undershirts, all that good stuff. You'd have your socks and underwear in here too. Even today in the Navy, they teach you I spent a whole day teaching you how to properly fold your laundry, which may seem strange, except this is all you've got. This is all the room you've got. And honestly, I found out, I didn't even realize the Navy did things this way. I found out by accident, if you roll your clothes up, you have more room in your travel bag for your tacky souvenirs or whatever. So I did that just by accident. That's how the Navy does it.
I always roll my stuff up.
Yeah. It ends up, you end up fitting more
Yeah.
stuff and it's not all wrinkled up.
That's the way I have it in my pack.
That's how it works out. So that's what you got. Now they would inspect this locker. One, this is all the space you had. So let's say oh, I'm running out of room in here. Let me throw stuff in this locker because nobody's using it. Thing is about a ship, people are transferring on and off. People are changing, designations. They're moving in, moving out. This is not going to be empty very long, especially since they don't usually have enough lockers for everybody. So if somebody opens this up 2 days later and go, hey, there's stuff in here. I thought it was unassigned. It is unassigned. Better take your gear and throw it out. They don't know whose it belongs to. Might be some guy way down there for all we know. So what happens is, make sure to keep all your stuff in here. You also did have a special lock box, so you put, the rest of your paycheck, letters home from mom, that really, that ring that costs about 2 months' salary and stuff you're going to give to your girlfriend so you could propose. Actually, it was about $10 in Hong Kong, but don't tell her that. Lock it up in here. That's what you need. So you put all that in there, you had your own lock, you were good to go. But they did inspect this, you had to look good. They inspected everybody by division, which is about 10 to 12 guys usually. Like that whole table and stuff, that whole area, that would have been a division. Kind of like you guys are Division 2 tonight. So if somebody in your group, in your division, is totally slacking, they've got like a 3-day-old crust and of bread and a whole pile of dirty underwear in the corner, guess who probably failed inspection and just ruined it for everybody else? You and your team had to hold each other accountable. So that was part of the thing. Everybody looked like, are you guys good? Are you good? Good? All right. I guess you had a little towel rack here. That was kind of nice. Question?
What's that?
I'm about to tell you. That right there is the isolation ward. So if you got the flu or something, obviously let's say you just came back from shore leave, just got on New York City, 3 days later you suddenly got the flu. They don't have enough time to take you home or turn around and get to a port. They just don't have that. So what you gotta do is, they put you in here because you cannot make everybody else sick. It's the same thing as you go to school and suddenly you're showing flu symptoms, or like, get out of here and go home. Because if you make everybody sick, that's just a lot of people out. On a Navy ship, that could be dangerous. And just imagine, especially in wartime, 3 days out, you didn't tell anybody you got the flu. You're spreading it to other people, you're contagious. A couple days later, 2 or 3 days later, let's say, you're at battle station, somebody's coming. It doesn't do much good if a third of the crew are down with 103-degree temperatures and they're all seeing double. That ain't gonna do you looking good. So to prevent problems, they stuck you in here. Now, there was a story of a guy who I kept debating, was it a Marine or a sailor? I think Marine just because of the helmet they were talking about. But what happened was, he'd been in here quite some time, he was sick of it, he wanted to go. Kind of like your parents say, like, you're feeling better, but it's like, let's keep you home 1 more day just to make sure you're really over it. And then the next day you're even worse than before, the whole calm before the storm thing. Well, that's what we're worried about with him. So he's like, I'm fine, guys, I want to go, I want to get back to duty, let me out. But they're like, sorry, you need to keep 1 more day. Thing about this guy, he grabbed his helmet and he smashed it against the sink. And that towel's partly covering it, but there's a big old gouge taken out right about there.
I can see it.
Yeah. So yeah, the isolation ward wasn't a fun place, but it did prevent people from getting everybody else sick.
I heard that a bomb hit it.
No, not a bomb.
That's on another day.
Alright guys, this is sick bay. If anybody knows their Star Trek or just knows their general, anything more on board ships.
What was that room?
That's just a test area.
Huh.
That's just general checkup before you're cleared to go. Sick bay. So this is for the non-contagious people who might have gotten like your appendix taken out, or they got their toe broken in the engine room because Jack dropped the wrench on the floor, whatever. Just basic stuff. So this is for everybody who wasn't too sick.
Why don't they call it the injured and not the sickness? The sick means you have a virus.
Well, it means you're hospitalized in hospice, whatever. I don't know. They just call it that for short. Now, the thing about this, the doctor had been here at about 0830, or no, 0800, and he had probably a line of about 50 guys outside the door. He'd be standing here, probably give like a 3-second diagnosis. And let me take a look at you. Oh, get back to work, you slacker. On and on down the line, fast as you could. So, but yeah, this room, you know, you can obviously play checkers or read a book or hang out a little bit if you're, you know, needing sick bay attention. And yes, you probably saw in that bunk right there. See what looks like a toilet sitting there?
Yes.
You guys know what that's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, catheter's a tube. Bedpan. Yes, they did have bedpans. Some people think that's totally gross. If somebody would, bedpan's what you, if you can't stand or walk or anything, that's what you poop and pee in a little bit of toilet. It might seem gross, but hey, they'll clean it out for you. And if you had a broken leg, they are not going to get you hanging on each other's shoulders and going all the way down aft had to go use the bathroom. There's no way to do it.
Are those like stretchers?
Yeah, actually, those are the carry baskets, basically stretcher baskets.
And why are, oh, the legs are the bottom.
Yep, those are for the legs because, you know, if you guys ever seen, obviously you've seen the Army and stuff like that, they got like the little canvas and little handlebars and they move you around. On board a ship though, you got ladders and everything else you got to deal with. So what they do is they actually stick you inside there, but they keep, let's say you got a bad injury in your leg, that keeps your legs stable instead of moving around from side to side. So they got you there, put your legs in, they strap you in real nice, and then they carry you around because we have actually had to use those on one or two occasions on the ship.
Or?
No,
Oh.
back in the day. But when they did, it was because they had to get from the bridge all the way down using these. So they had to strap them in real tight and lower them real
Somebody
careful.
drop a hammer on somebody's head.
Oh no, something worse. I'll tell you more about
No,
it.
it's rusty. Rusty.
Well, I'm sure she had better digs than this.
Yes, she has.
So, and most of you guys are so not regulation, I gotta admit. You're definitely not, you're not.
I got a haircut Saturday. I did it.
Well, you are actually.
They took away the hair regulation.
Yeah. we don't have it
Well, on
anymore.
this ship, you would have had, now guys, if you look at World War II photographs, especially young Navy men, or actually just about anybody in the armed services, your hair could not come below the tops of your ears or touch your collar.
What?
So, yeah. So, I'm definitely out
So
of
I
regulation
would,
too.
so I would have to like totally just
Yep.
shave off my hair.
No, you just had to cut that much. That's why you kind of got when you see, like, have you guys ever seen Bands of Brothers?
Mhm.
That show? You guys see the haircut? They kind of had it almost looked shaved back here, but they had all this up here going on. That's kind of what was typical. So if you look at those World War II movies, it's actually pretty good. So what you got is, they being here, taking that off. Now, how many chairs do you see? Three. You got 3 chairs, and these guys are pretty busy from 0800 to 11:30 and 1300 to 1600, or 1 to 4 in the afternoon.
Somebody left a hat.
Well, they probably didn't need it anymore, I don't know. But yeah, they take their hat off, get things cut. Now, the thing is, you look at old photographs, they did not have, like, mousse and hairspray and stuff like that. They had, like, oils and tonics and stuff like that. So that's why, if you look at pictures, their hair looks real slick and stuff. That's what they got.
shiny.
Yeah, kind of shiny, kind of slick. But that's what they had. Now, the thing about this area is, when we were talking about inspections, now the thing about the Texas is, she was flagship of the U.S. Navy twice. Flagship of the training fleet in 31, and flagship of the entire Navy in 1927 after she came out of dry dock when she got all her really cool refits and stuff done. So what that means by flagship, she was the representative of the U.S. Navy, so she had admirals on board all the time, which means she had inspections all the time. So what you had was, with these guys, they could get pretty busy. And when it came right down to it, even if you got, let's say you got your hair cut last week.
My hair
If
goes so
you're-
fast.
True, that's also why I mentioned this. Because, well, okay, you got your hair cut last week. Well, if your division is about to get inspected, they'd make you come in here all over again to get your hair cut again, just to make sure.
Can I pay for it?
You did have to pay for it. Now, most guys, they sometimes go off to their bunks and say, hey, dude, could you just trim this up real quick for me? They get like a bowl or something and do it real quick, whatever they could. Some guys were good at it, some guys not so good. But you had to have your hair regulation, because I found out actually from an old sailor that came on here. He said, remember, 1,800 people. You would have everybody getting inspected, and if you ever saw, you're going to see an example in the video tomorrow, you see an officer leaning over like this to somebody while they're standing there, it generally meant see me after inspection, which means, hey, you messed up or you failed. If 2 people got called out, the entire ship failed inspection. So yeah, the entire ship. If it was a full ship inspection, which they did have quite a few of. So you really made sure things were good. And just imagine all these poor guys working so hard. I guess it's a good thing, you know, if they got too busy and accidentally cut somebody's ear off. Nice to know, right next to the operating room. In reality, nobody ever got their ear cut off that I know of. I just can't think of a better way to get over there, so let's go.
My ear hanging off.
Well, I'm sure the blood would have kind of made it obvious. But
And also an ear sitting on the floor and a guy missing his ear on his
I'm going, what?
Where's the operating table?
Now, unfortunately, the operating table's been moved out. This is also an old Eagle Scout project, but the problem is you see the deck under there kind of looks like it's buckled a bit under the tiles.
Yeah.
It's all warped. They're trying to bolster it up and like fix it, and then they're going to put that stuff back. Now, this right here, these are like the sterilizing equipment for the operating tools. That all is original to the ship, actually. And that little door back there, that's actually goes straight into sick bay. So if anybody was prepping for an operation or something, they'd be in there, come right back in here, go out. Now I will say, we haven't had to use this too much for our own crew, except maybe, you know, somebody gets their appendix taken out. Now I'm going to ask you guys something real quick, just a general idea. Okay, we got 1917, 1918, World War I, then 41 to 45, World War II. Roughly 5.5 years of active combat, 2 world wars that Texas was in. How many of the Texas crew do you think was killed in the line of duty?
I remember this.
How many?
One.
One. Exactly.
One of these.
Now,
One out of both world wars, one Texas crew member got killed on board.
Isn't it?
Now, some people have transferred to other ships and probably got killed there, but while they were on the Texas, only one.
How do you know?
And
That's
I'll tell you more about that tomorrow.
Man, so this is like.
Hey, it's suspense. I gotta keep you thinking.
One question.
But hey, just to tell you, in here we didn't have so much of our own crew except for those little minor things like quick operations. But D-Day +1, June 6, 1944, well, June 7th, the Texas was the first ship to fire on D-Day. But she was close enough offshore, she was about 7 miles offshore. A lot of those little Higgins boats, you know, those little amphibious craft that have the nose laid down and everybody runs out.
Yeah, and you see a
Looks
tank
like-
drive off.
Well, those are the LSTs. But those guys, where you see those.
Oh.
Those guys actually, they don't tell you, they had a little anchor they shot off the back and it landed in the water. And what they'd do is they'd land on the beach, but they'd reel themselves back onto that anchor once they deposited their load of troops and other guys. But what they try to do is they'd bring the wounded on board and they'd come on, steer around, go back to the ships. The Texas was actually a hospital ship on a D-Day +1, so the second day of D-Day. So I think there's actually a picture of the old Saturday Evening Post where they showed like 24 Marines being brought on board. Kind of interesting. So as far as Texas crew, we lost one. Question?
What are we gonna eat?
In about 45 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
Say 12.
Yeah, Chris Christensen. I'll tell you more about him tomorrow. Now this here, just watch your feet going through the combing. Remember, rotate around so people behind you can see. There's some things here I don't really talk much about because there's not many stories, but this I like to mention. This is the Auxiliary Combat Information Center. Now it's taking you a while to guess what you think that means.
Comms.
Well, what does auxiliary mean?
Hey, there's a radar in here.
Oh.
It's a radar room.
Auxiliary basically means backup system, guys. So if you ever hear transfer command to auxiliary, you're saying we need backup system. Bring it up online. So that's what we hear about.
I see a curtain.
I
What
see a
you
monkey.
basically got in there is a mini version of the Combat Information Center. So your radar information, your weather information, your plotting, your shooting, all that stuff's in CIC, slightly behind a bridge. And also in spotter control up top. Now guys, don't get too far ahead of me. But the reason we got this auxiliary system here is backup. Repetition, repetition, repetition on a Navy ship is big. Because if a lucky couple of shots from Germans, from German battleships or planes come in and blow the CIC to smithereens, we don't know the weather situation, we don't have good radar control, we don't know where to shoot, we don't know where they're shooting from, we're dead in the water. So what they do is they have this area here, and you basically just got a smaller area, but it's got all that same stuff in it. The only downside, you don't have windows, so you got to rely on all the guys up top to tell you what's going on. You still have to in CIC also. But you do have backup systems, and this was a very good one. Now the thing is, on board this ship, just to, like we say in backup systems, how many of you guys know the story of the battleship Bismarck?
The what?
The battleship Bismarck in Germany? Well, the big thing about it, the biggest battleship until the Tirpitz that the Germans had ever made, It basically lasted about 2 weeks and then it was sunk. Partially because what happened was they were trying to avoid all the fire and a torpedo came in and damaged the rudder. They couldn't move. So everybody knew exactly where the ship was going and they basically ambushed it and shot it to pieces. So, as a kind of a lesson to that, the thing is they knew it didn't work very well without rudder control anyway. But this ship, in case something happened to our rudder or whatever, or our steering gear, we have 7 different ways to steer the ship. And we actually had to use one once, and that was part of that Chris Christensen thing I'll talk about
I
tomorrow.
thought you said we couldn't steer it out of harbor because it was on like a 12 degree.
Well, I'm saying if something happened in war. Obviously now we can't, because, you know, back then when we had a rudder that worked, we could. Now this here's the this here's the executive office, or the XO. The Marines actually ran this section. But that's the guys that, like, if you ever hear, hey, talk to the XO, that's what they're talking about. He knew everything that was going on board ship. Yeah, we're going to go below in a little bit, so. More bumps. In a minute. Hey, guys, just letting you guys know this. This is the Marine space. And yes, there were guns. I have to move to show you guys that. These, yeah, M1 Garands, exactly, weigh about 9.5 pounds apiece. And of course, after you see them with morning exercises in the morning, they were using Brownings in the 30s video, but they're sitting there doing this and this and this, and by about the time they're done, it feels like it's 90 pounds, they said. Well, sort of, but if you put a bullet in them, they won't fire. They took out the good stuff, so if you guys are planning a mutiny, I'm sorry to say, this isn't going to help you. So, besides, my minion could take you all on, I'm sure.
You're who?
Minion.
One of Gru's minions. I brought him with me. He's my study buddy. But that's the Sergeant at Arms office. The thing is, anywhere on board ship where you see like a seafoam green color, that's an officer space. You cannot cross that threshold unless they give you permission. Yep.
Did they have carbines there too, or did they not?
I think Duran's were the last they had.
I charged my phone in there, right?
She really didn't have a whole bunch of other stuff.
It doesn't have the 3. It doesn't have the 3 prongs. Only 2.
But yeah, this Marine space, there's a lot of reasons why it's here. One, where else are you going to put the Marines? You guys have already seen where we pretty much put everything else. But 2, what you have is you have access to the 3rd deck, and that railing leads straight up to top deck. That's next to the 40s. So that's next to a lot of the anti-aircraft. Also, before they had the amphibious landing craft, the Marines were the ones who got off in the little motor launches down to the water, and they were our first response overseas. They're also there at the Tampico incident in 1914, the first thing the Texas ever did. So what happened was, there was a little incident in Veracruz where basically a bunch of Americans were getting hassled and stuff, and they were going to practice big gun diplomacy. The Texas had just gotten finished, just came out of the dock and stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're going to tell us what to do with these Americans? You and who else? Basically, you just see these 14-inchers go, yeah, let's talk about this.
Wait, what?
So the Marines actually went on shore to take care of the Americans that were getting hassled by the Mexican population in Veracruz. Kind of like, you know, lots of stuff going on. There were some Marines who got in trouble down there trying to keep the peace. Or like, we need more help. So the Texas's Marines got off on ship and went over there. And they pretty much saved the day. Real nice. Well, the New York had hers on too.
Here's the
Yay!
There's my table.
Yep. Yeah, I know. The table's on the other side. I don't know why they didn't put it back here. But anyway, that's that case. So we got these. Also, the Navy lore reason why the Marine space is here. Around the corner there, next to those bunks, is a bread pantry. And the big thing about this ship, or any American Navy ship, Navy bread was awesome. It was like one of the best things ever. So Navy lore likes to say that they put the Marines here to stop the sailors from stealing all the bread. Although that didn't really work because they usually have them cooling under the air castle. They had the bread just cooling under there and stuff. And you'd see these sailors walking around with big old summer pea coats, or pea coats in the summertime, sweltering hot. But then you go, yoink, and walk away like you really think they don't know what they're doing. So it was just kind of a joke among sailors, like, yeah, who's going to get caught this time?
Holy.
On this ship, Marines and Navy actually got along pretty well. Thing is, with this Marine space the way it is, the Navy guys just kind of went around and stuff. They tried not to go through here. The only time they really did was for chow. Because what you got there is, you got a cabinet full of bowls and trays. Well, this was the start of the chow line. Hey guys.
Ow.
Now you probably got about 5 or 6 minutes left on this deck, and then we're going below, okay? Yes, there's more. What? You good?
Get over here. We're not starving.
Okay, guys. Now
You have
this
snacks
here,
for us?
this here
Pickles.
is. This is the cafeteria. Now this wasn't here until about October 1944. Actually, they put it here just because remember the sheer amount of guys. Now the thing is, what they used to do to get their food is they go straight up to the top deck, and they had the galley up there. That's where they actually cook the food. They don't cook it down here. They just serve it here. So what they do is they cook it up there, and they used to have the guy in division, or the screw up of the week, or the new guy, go, hey, go get us our food. So we'd have to go and get the big tubs and get this and that. The problem is with the waves rocking and pushing and going, we had a galley cook on board about 3 months ago who said, yeah, there's some guys that come back 3 or 4 times to get their food because it kept getting washed overboard. It happened quite a bit. So they did partly to alleviate that also, you know, supplies are getting tight, was they built, you see where that, guys, you see that thing of
It's a dumb
bread
waiter.
sitting on? Yeah, it's called a dumbwaiter.
I don't think that's very nice.
You can't hurt its feelings, it's a machine. It's not a Furby, it doesn't know what you're talking about. Or Chucky,
One
thank
of us
goodness.
come off.
So what you got is, you got that big,
Oh, my
where that
phone.
big tub of bread's sitting on, they'd actually make it up there, slice it up, butter it, and they'd actually bring it down and serve it here. So all these are steam trays like your school cafeteria. So what you had was, everything on this side was the same as that side. There was no, ooh, do I want the meatloaf or the turkey line? It was all the same stuff. One of the more popular items on the menu was what you see right there as an example. That's called stuff on a shingle. Yes, we do keep it PG around here. But basically, it's like biscuits and biscuits and hamburger gravy. You know, you guys ever have biscuits and gravy for breakfast? Well, it's beef tips on toast. Little salty, could use a little more meat in it, but not too shabby. And wheat bread would have tasted better, I think, but that's just me. We actually had a veteran last year request it and stuff when his family stayed over. So that's what we got. And you had lots of fresh veggies at first. Obviously, they have a limited shelf life, so you ran out of those. You had to go with the canned stuff. And yes, they had tons of potatoes. They actually have what's called a spud locker, which is right next to our smokestack, actually. And you would have the guys peeling potatoes. Actually, on this ship, most veterans said it wasn't really that big of a deal. They're like, yeah, okay, just do it for an hour or so, go do something else. But everybody else seems to complain about it. I don't know. We must have just had very happy veterans. So that's those guys. Now, especially for the adults or anybody who loves to partake in it, I want you to give me a good guess. Those 2 big tureens. Oh, first guess, too. Those 2 big urns sticking out of the bulkhead over here with the ladles, those are for coffee. They held 80 gallons each, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's how we're going to stay up.
No. And just for the record, do you guys drink coffee at all?
Yes,
I don't really drink
I
coffee
do.
that much.
I do.
Well, that depends on them. If they say you don't drink coffee, you don't drink coffee.
I love
There's
coffee.
In which case, it's going to be right here.
There's some in Division number, War 2, right?
Yeah.
In Division 1, there are some people that don't need to drink coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's up to the scout leaders. If they say no coffee, there's no coffee.
Matthew or
Matthew.
And it feels good to sit down.
Matthew.
Nice.
Matthew and Dylan.
Remember what I said? If you volunteer people, you're going to get voluntold yourself. Not very smart. So
I
anyway,
like that. Good job.
anywho, so that's that. As far as the cafeteria.
What is this for?
That would have been the peacoat locker. That's for the guys who had to like go off on deck on watch and stuff, and they're like freezing.
Oh, I thought
That's
that
access to a decontamination, but I'll show you a better one over here. Actually, it's on the other side. And oops, sorry, I passed it right up because you were talking. Now, we talked about the washer, we talked about the spinners. This is the drying room. There's a reason why it's here.
At first I thought it said the dying room.
Well, if you wanted to, this would be a very effective way to do it. But what you got is, in the drying room, okay, that's it. We are actually we're actually very central to the ship right here. What you got is the smokestacks are right above us, and you have 3 intake pipes that generate the steam, push it outwards when it's been used up by the engines. The boiler rooms are all down below us.
All that steam. All the
Yep.
steam goes.
So what they do
steam goes
is,
down.
yeah, exactly. They boil up the steam and stuff, goes through the piping. Thing is, when it goes through the engines and everything, it's about 600 degrees. And it's reused 3 times. We'll find that out when we go see the engine room in a little bit. But when it goes up here, by the time they've reused it over and over, it goes up through these pipes. It's about, we're actually up here, sorry. It's actually about maybe 250, 300 degrees. That's still pretty hot. But you have these insulated pipes. We did, seal off the asbestos, so you don't have to worry about that. I think we got rid of it too.
Is that why we can't go in there?
Well, that and there's really nothing to see on this level. You'd have to go below, but you probably need a tetanus shot to go see it too.
Why?
So, rusty.
Oh.
Yeah, we have to have people sign. We have to have people go on a hard hat tour and see it, but it's just a little bit too
We
complex.
could go on a hard hat tour?
If you're 15 or older, in which case I'll give you more info later.
Oh, yeah.
But what you can do here is you go through there in these pipes. So that room, and right below us is the big drying room. It gets so hot in there, it's about 130, 140 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So that's the point where it's like, it's too hot to work in, definitely too hot to sleep in, and you can only really put stuff in there where if you touch it with your bare hands, it's not going to burn you. But what they found out is they get a big division laundry bag about 8 feet long. The person in the division goes, runs in here real quick, goes down the ladder, because there's really not much room up here, but they go down below that drying room area, and there's actual clotheslines strung back and forth. So they get their gear and they throw it on the line real quick, step outside for about 30 minutes, bone dry. So they don't need a dryer on this ship, unless it's a cold ship, in which case they go on land and do their laundry. I think they've also, if they're in port and not moving, they just hang clothesline like outside. But while the ship's in action, they're here. And I know I'm falling a little bit behind, so I'm going to go through this fast as I can because I want you guys to see third deck. Guys, we'll be done in about 25 minutes. Depends on how much, though. I got to check on you guys. That is here to take a while. Guess what you think this area is for?
Washing.
Dishwashing. Oh, right. You guys got it right the first time. I always have somebody say, oh, this is the coffee room. No, we did not have a Starbucks on board. Although those coffee mugs, all they did was, go, hey guys, spot me some. Here you go, pour coffee. You're good to go. You didn't have to go pay for it. They just gave it to you. I love that on this ship. Oh, I just want to Now, when you guys can go to the head later, and I'll make sure we stop before you guys get, stuck in there. This is the head you guys are going to use right this second.
Go.
There's 2 toilets on this side and a urinal over there. So around this curved partition, you have 2 toilets and a urinal. So that's what you guys are going to use.
Just saying, I'm not taking my 3 minutes.
Well, if it does, I'll get somebody to go look for me.
Great, let's go. Oh, wait, that's officer ward. Why can't we sleep in there?
We can't do that because there's nowhere to sleep in there, and we have like security alarms back there at night, so we don't go back there at night at all.
Oh, what's back there?
Ship silver and things like that.
What is it?
Ship silver and
Silver.
silver.
No. I think up there.
Can I look back there while we're
No.
waiting for him? Oh. Well, like, just stand on the side of the door.
There's nothing to see. You're gonna see a couple doors. That's it, because it curves around like this.
Oh, that's boring.
But anyway, for you adults, just to let you know, that do not enter door right there next to the fire hose, that's where Paul's going to be tonight. So if anything crops up in the middle of the night, you guys got a major concern or somebody's feeling seasick, he'll be in there, let him know. No, where it says do not enter.
This one right here.
Guys, what are you doing?
Sorry.
That's our storage area,
This
please.
door.
All right.
Who got scared? Raise your hand.
Yeah, Scary Paul there. So you see that face there? Do not get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and ask him how many rivets there are in the ship. He'll probably do that to you.
How many are there?
A lot.
2.
You didn't give me a solid answer.
2 or 3.
No, he owes you that. I don't. Now, crew washroom. There's not really much to say there. Actually, that's the officer's washroom. Unfortunately, it's not in good shape. This here is the decontamination station. This is where, well, guys, you remember I showed you on the other side there, the drying room?
Yeah.
Where, how to get up through the boilers and stuff and go into the drying room? You see there's a little door kind of sticking over here? That door leads directly to the drying room just aft of us right here. The reason they do that is because back in the day when the Texas first ran on energy, she ran on coal. Okay, she had coal-fired engines, just like how many of you guys have seen the movie Titanic? Okay, you know the part they're obviously shoveling the coal in the
Yeah.
boilers and stuff.
Seen the movie Battleship.
That was the
so.
first time I've ever cried.
Okay.
Cried for somebody.
But anyway, but what they do is they got what's called the black gang down there. It's not their color, it's what they ended up looking when they came out because they had soot all over their clothes. So what they had to do was they had to clean up a bit because coal dust is toxic. You don't want it in your bedding, your food, and your clothes and all that other good stuff. Because just imagine if they just came up from the boiler rooms, just came down this passageway, nothing. And you've been cleaning, you've been mopping, you've been wiping down these nice white bulkheads. Hey man, how's it going? Nice big black handprint all over your nice clean area. If you don't punch them out in that first moment, you're probably still not going to talk to them the rest of the day because you just gave you more work to do. But what you do is to keep all that coal dust contained, you come straight up through the boiler, straight up through the drying room, and that door right there, enter into here. Or there is decontamination on the other side. But decontamination, then after this is drying room. This was the main one. And then what they do is come in here, clean up a bit, not like the Navy shower so much, but at least scrub down and get rid of their dirty clothes. And then come out here and join everybody else.
That's pretty pink. Why is some of the metal here real thin?
It's just deteriorated because it's so thin. Because, remember, the ship kind of moves and stuff up and down, side to side. It's just warping from time. But yeah, this is drying room access on the other side, too.
It's vented.
So yeah, decontamination, drying room, there's 3 drying room accesses on this side. I don't know why there's only one over there. That's our room. Yeah, our room over there. Case mayday.
That's all.
And now we're gonna go, guys, we're gonna go down to the 3rd deck. If you need a quick drink of water, I recommend it. We can get it right before we go down, so we'll spend about 20 minutes down there. Maybe a little longer.
That was cool.
Guys, water right here. You guys can grab it. Also, we're spending 20 minutes down on the water line back in World War II. Water would have been clapping right outside there. Now, there's a reason it's not. We're actually good probably 15 to 20 feet above the water line, give or take a few depending on the tides. Because what you've got, okay. So what you got is,
And
huh?
there's Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Matthew.
Oh, down here.
No, he's the one who did Gangnam Style. He's in group.
Oh, never mind. I thought he was the guy we were waiting on. No, we're not. Never mind. Yay! Oh, thank you. Okay, anyway, guys. So what?
Infinitely. Anyway,
Okay,
that guy.
guys.
Anyway,
We
continue
got
with your
a
speech.
handful of minutes. What we got here is where you got right there, that would have been the water line. 15 to 20 feet above at the moment is because, well, first of all, how many of you guys have ever been in a boat with some friends? What happens when more people start getting in the boat?
It goes down.
It starts going down because you're displacing more water because you're weighing down the boat. So, what she had is, at her peak, she had about 37,000 tons. That's how much the ship weighed. She's closer to 27,000 now. Because what she had was 88 anti-aircraft guns, all the ammunition for them, all the powder bags for the 14 and 5-inch guns, all the ammunition for those, all the 1,800 sailors, all the stuff they brought on board, all the fuel you're going to need, all the food you're going to need. That's thousands and thousands of tons of stuff. So that's why we're sitting so high up. That's why when you guys probably noticed I showed you guys the outside of the ship, it kind of juts out a bit and slopes. There's a reason for that. Now you guys see, especially Gallagher over here, I want to see if, how you guys strong manly men are going. Those nuts and bolts over there. Can you guys turn those hexes with your bare hands?
No.
Yes.
Give it a shot.
Yes.
That's
Really?
What's
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay back here.
Yeah. Well, the hex is not the bolt. There you go.
Watch, it's totally.
No,
Oh, I just turned.
Welded.
I turned it 1 centimeter just now.
Oh, somebody's been eating their spinach. Good for you.
I like spinach.
John, dude.
That's just natural. Awesome.
I can't do it. I like spinach.
Okay.
All right, guys. Now there's a reason those are there, and I'm bringing it up right now. Because back in the day, those actually hold on to torpedo blisters. It's essentially an extra little wall on the outside of the ship. That's why it kind of juts out a bit and then slopes down. Because back in the day, it wasn't until 1927 we had that. Because this is what we used to have. This is the Texas back in 1919, looking kind of the way a battleship usually does. Kind of sleek lines all the way nice and down to the water. As we're going through the Panama Canal. Now, this is the Texas in 1928, just after her refit, going through the same section of the Panama Canal. She can barely fit through there now. Look at that. You see that right there?
Why?
She's 2 feet from the edge on each side. That's like this much. So the entire time that the tugboats have her under command, they're like, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit. The whole way she's going through there.
Why?
Pretty testy. Well, if she hits, she's gonna damage the lock. They gotta be very, very careful, because if you do that, you're gonna let water in, you're gonna create leaks, and then the Panama Canal doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't.
No.
My grandma went through it just like a couple years ago on a cruise ship.
Well, the cruise ship probably didn't bang into the locks and cause a bunch of punctures either.
Oh.
I'm sure that would have been in the news if that was the case, because that's a major commodity.
Yeah.
So that's what you got. Those torpedo blisters added an extra 5 feet on each side to the ship. And yeah, it still is. That's why she's got that kind of bulging out to the side. So instead of that nice sleekness, she's Big Bertha now. Which,
But that's
hey,
a weapon.
it's preventative, because what kind of weapon affects a ship at the waterline the most?
Torpedo.
Torpedo.
Torpedo. So this is torpedo blister for a reason. Because if a torpedo came and hit it and exploded, it would blow up out there, not in here. So you don't have a big cascading rush of water coming through to sink the ship. It blows up out there. Usually it'd have like sawdust or extra water or something in there to absorb the impact, so in case it did get hit, you know, it wouldn't like rattle things around. Now you might have a couple of pipes bust loose and a few rivets pop, but you're not going to have like a big gaping hole. So
Yeah, and if it hits right where those men would be sleeping, then they're gonna have the wake up call of their life.
oh no, we're good 15 feet above it. We're not, guys, we're not going to be below the water line at any point tonight. We're sitting way high up.
What is that hatch for?
That's for a transformer room.
Now what's that the big thing?
Well, I'm getting there. If you guys will let me.
He wants to
You're
hurry up and go.
impatient. Well, you just want to learn everything right now.
Stop! Stop!
Well, guys.
Everyone do not pull that.
Yes, please don't. Yeah, you're first on my list. Anyway, so what you got here in this damage control, you got pliers, you got wrenches, you got a nice big C-clamp right there. You also got what I like to affectionately call the Smash Brothers hammer. Basically a barrel with a stick on it, because what that does is it wangs those little guys into any holes. We got several different sizes because we got holes punching and popping and this and that everywhere. They're not gonna. We don't have a big giant round hole. It's not going to happen. So every time you see a movie of like a torpedo or something hitting, it really doesn't make a nice big round hole. It creates lots of little shrapnel and buckled plates and stuff, because the outside of the ship is not one solid steel mass. It's a bunch of plates riveted or welded together. So depending on where it hits, you know, you're going to get different size holes. So that's why. And you need a big hammer like that to make sure it's big enough to cover the top of that plug and hit nice and even, because they're made of wood. If you just get like a metal hammer and start banging on it, it's going to crack it apart. I think you just got more, you know, shrapnel to deal with. Question?
How long did it take to build this whole ship?
Let me see. Keel laid April 1911. Launch May. Her the outer hole in the keel was done in about 13 months. So that's called the launching. And then she was commissioned in 1914, so it took about 2.5, 3 years to build. Yeah?
There's a hatch, a circular hatch on the ground over there that kind of sort of opens. What is it for?
Emergency access, I think.
Miss, I have a question too.
Hang on. Okay. Make it quick. What is it?
How much did that hammer thing weigh?
I'm not sure. It's not too heavy though. Probably about 15 pounds, maybe. I don't know at the
You owe
most.
me $25. And how many people?
The brig!
How many people
Yay.
help build this ship?
That's what you're saying.
I have no clue. I do know, guys.
Going to the brig.
Guys, little things like that I'm not going to know, because it depended. Remember, it took maybe 2.5 years to build, and you're going to have thousands of guys working on different sections of the ship and on other ships at the same time. So to say how many people worked on it is very difficult.
Mehmet the Conqueror
Not very.
built a fort in 7
Okay,
months.
hopefully this for none of you guys are spending the night.
Sales.
I'm waiting though.
The jail.
Can I go in one?
Yeah.
Can I push it? Can I close this on it?
Go for your launch.
Riley, I ain't putting two and talking you out.
Nick, get in the brig for another 3 or 4 days. It usually only took once for somebody to make that mistake. So if you got a Marine guarding you outside who really doesn't like you, you better just keep your trap shut and hope for the best. So,
Did he give you a bump?
I don't know about that. They generally kept it a few days. I think if you decide to break out of the jail cell and start a fight with a guy, yeah, he'd probably give you a month. But that was that. Now we have got quite a few interesting inmates in there. Our first one was named Ursa, and she was a bear cub, actually.
The gun crew, they win.
Sorry, we beat you.
Come on, let's go, let's go!
Go! Come on, go!
Boom! Boom! Call it! Alright, give me new gun operators. Reset the guns. Don't run! Don't run! You're gonna get a chance. Behind! You behind!
Hey, are we clear or are we out? Fine. You're behind, dude.
Come on! Go, 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 go! Keep going, keep going, keep going.